Good day everyone, it is Caitlin, and today we are going to talk about the Hope Chest bedding, and this time we're talking bed coverings. Alright, so this should be a very quick video because I didn't actually do any sewing this month for this project. And I always say it's going to be a fast video and then it ends up being half an hour long because I just run my mouth for half an hour. Actually, I run my mouth much longer than that. I just cut a lot of it out so you only get like a 25-ish minute video. But anyway, so I bought the coverlets and that sort of thing because I don't have a loom yet and I knew I wasn't going to get one in time. So I thought, let's go ahead and buy something for right now and then I can make my own later. But before that, so we already did sheets. And I don't know, growing up during the winter, we always had some sort of flannel wool blanket between the top bedding piece and the sheets. I guess just for extra warmth. And so I bought this nice wool blanket, I suppose. I bought it on Etsy, and it's really nicely made. The picture showed a really nice pretty green. This is not a nice pretty green. I was hoping it would match, you know, all the linen and the bed coverings and all that, but oh well, we got this. But the only other colors, I guess I could have chosen the black. The black would have looked fine. But anyway, we got this right now, so we're going to go ahead and use it. I think it's fine the way it is. But yeah, it's just a 100% wool blanket, and it's, again, got on Etsy, and yeah, so it's all wool, and this is the king size. I just went ahead and got the big size, even though I don't think we're going to have a king bed. I think we're going to have a queen bed, but I can always cut it down if needed. So that's the first blanket. Came in a nice little carrying case. Would recommend them. They're kind of scratchy, but they're not like vintage wool scratchy, if that makes sense. Like, they're softer than what most vintage wool is, but it's not as soft as period wool, if that makes any sense. I didn't particularly care if it was any scratchy or if it was scratchy at all, because it's going to be an in-between layer. It's not touching my skin anywhere, so it's just literally a warmth layer. But yeah, so I have that, and left this over to the side. Now we can talk coverlets. So the eventual goal is for me to actually weave the coverlet that's going to be on the bed, because I think it'd be a really fun project. For now, though, I knew I don't have a loom yet. I mean, I have a loom. I have a rigid heddle loom. It's not anywhere close to what I need to make a coverlet. It just isn't. So I'm waiting until I get that. There may be a loom in the works. I'm working with a friend on that one. If that ends up not working out, I'll go find another one. I'm hoping this one will kind of come through because it's a good size and I've seen the loom in person. But yeah. So that would be the eventual goal. For right now, I bought one. I bought a cheap one. It's not even from Family Heirloom Weavers. It's 100% cotton. It's a little stiffer than what I've seen before with Family Heirloom Weavers. I have one of their coverlets. I love their coverlets. I just couldn't afford that. They didn't have the pattern or the colors I wanted. And I originally looked at their website, but they didn't have the pattern or the colors that I wanted on their website. And so I just did a search, and I happened to find one from another company that is not selling them anymore, because I got this actually a couple months ago. But yeah, the pattern is called Lover's Knot, which I thought was appropriate for, you know, a wedding coverlet. And it's black and brown. I wanted the black, but I'm not a huge fan of the brown. I think when I weave my own, I'm going to do black, but I think I'm going to do white or slightly off-white instead of the brown, because this just kind of looks dingy. And I don't think it really works well with like the greens I have planned and all that. So I think we're going to forego the brown next time. But for right now, it's gonna work for what it is. It is somewhat reversible as well if I wanted to show the brown side, but I'll probably end up showing the black side. Anyway, so talking about coverlets, let's go ahead and talk about the coverlet plans, even though we're not going to get to it until I get a loom. So this is one of the books I have on coverlets. This is called American Woven Coverlets. And it's an old library book, but it's mine. It's my copy. And so has information on coverlets, antique ones. There's a very similar pattern. It's not exact, but it's a very similar pattern from the 1770s. And like it has information on the parts of coverlets and the threads that were used, and processes of making the yarn. Talks about dyeing and preparing the fibers. Let's see. I'll probably end up making 2 coverlets. I thought about doing one that was all cotton for summer and then one that was all wool for winter. I thought that would be appropriate. A lot of coverlets were, well, early on, linen on the warp and then wool on the weft. Sometimes a linen cotton blend, sometimes a linen wool blend on either parts of those. And eventually cotton started getting replaced, or linen got replaced with cotton. And so a lot of the ones afterwards were wool cotton blends, so like cotton on the warp and then woven with the wool. But you also see occasionally all cotton ones and all wool ones, and I thought that'd be the easiest thing. I mean, it's not easy because that's like 2 coverlets to weave. But weaving actually does go pretty fast once you know what you're doing. So this one is not an authentic coverlet, and I mean, this is for modern bedding, so it doesn't really matter if it is, but it is not period because it's all in one piece. So period coverlets often have a seam down the middle for the larger beds because the looms weren't big enough to accommodate, the size of a double bed. So this one, it doesn't have a seam on it. So mine will have seams on them because I will definitely not be getting a loom that's any wider than 45 inches, and double that's about what you need for a bedspread. So yeah, I'll either do it in 2, possibly 3 panels, and then just stitch them together. Yeah, anyway, it goes over equipment. So I really want a flax break. That's like my next thing I'm looking for in antique stores. And I don't have a wool wheel yet, but I do have 3. Well, I have 2 flax wheels, and then I have a parlor wheel. I do have a clock reel. It looks different than that, but I have one. And of course, that's what I need. A nice big loom. But yeah, it talks about drafts, and it talks about all the different patterns you can use and all the pattern motifs. And here are some of the patterns that people use and what they're called and what each looks like. So there's like a bow knot and a star and the rose pattern. This is the wheel woven rose. There's the wheel patterns. And eventually down here you get to, well, it talks about pattern names. Eventually you get to how to weave them. So it talks you through what it's called, the warp count, the wefts, and has the pattern on it. So you can actually weave them yourself. I also have, one of my other books is a reprint of one, I believe it was written in the 18 teens, maybe the 1820s. And it is period directions for making a lot of coverlets. I bought this one for the ease of directions because we all know that period manuals rarely have good directions. Usually they're quite difficult to follow. But let's see, I was looking for the ones that I'm doing. I have not quite decided which ones I want to do. So, oh, I should have gotten the quilt out. I will go grab that in a second so we can talk about that too. So a long time ago, my grandmother, well, I say a long time ago, back when I was in college, which wasn't that long ago, it was 10 years ago, my grandmother made me a wedding quilt. And so it is green and blue, and the pattern is Rose of Sharon, which was also sometimes, well, it's not the same as a wig rose quilt pattern, but it's very, very similar to that pattern. Well, there is a wig rose coverlet pattern. And I was thinking, well, that would be kind of cool to sort of coordinate them that way. I still do like the lover's knot one. So I haven't quite decided, if that makes sense. So this one is with rose and lover's knot. So it's the large rose flamed by the 4 smaller roses and then surrounded by an indented ring, a large star framed by 4 stars. And it's quite a complicated pattern. But there's wig rose, lover's knot, opposite borders. So like there's lots of ones that we could do. I'm somewhat leaning towards doing the wig rose just because it'll coordinate with the wedding quilt, which I think would be kind of cool. But yeah, my grandmother made the quilt. I helped to quilt it, so it's hand quilted. It was in my grandmother's living room for the longest time, and I think most female family members had a hand in helping to quilt it, which is very special. Even it was just a few stitches, like a lot of my aunts don't sew, but they put a few stitches in when they came to visit. So like I have everyone's handiwork on there. My sister worked on it for quite a while. I worked on it for quite a while. Friends and local people who just stopped by my grandmother's house would sometimes help out. So even if it was just, again, a few stitches. So that is very special. And so I think it would be kind of fun to do this. So we are making a wedding quilt on the channel. It's going to be my historic one because the one I have, although it's an 1840s pattern, I did not pick period cut colors or fabrics. So it's a great modern wedding quilt. It's just not one for historical use. So I'm going to go ahead and make another one, same pattern. But yeah, I think let's just go with this. We're going to decide we're going to do the wig rose pattern for the coverlet when we get around to that. Or both coverlets if that's what we decide to do. This one's all cotton. I may decide just to do a cotton one, or I could do like a half cotton, half wool one. I think if I chose just to do one, I'd probably do one that's all cotton. Just because I can always add more layers on top of the bed. There's only so many you can take off and still be comfortable. So, and we'll decide that when we get there. I'll be a little bit further down the road, so I might actually have a decent idea of, do I want to make two? One cotton and one wool? Do I want to make one that's all cotton or one that's half cotton, half wool? So those are my options, and that's what we're going to have to decide eventually down the road. But yeah, so that is essentially the bedding that I bought. I'm going to go up and grab the wedding quilt real quick just so y'all can see it. Alright, so here is the quilt. So it is a fairly modernized version of the Rose of Sharon with scalloped edging because I love scallops. And traditionally, Rose of Sharon is done in red and green, which I chose blue because that's my favorite color. So it's not necessarily historical. I did find one original Rose of Sharon quilt in blue, but I believe it was dated to the 1870s or possibly later. So I couldn't document it as early as the 40s, which is what this pattern dates to. So yeah, it's mostly blue and green, blue and yellow, and a very dark green, which kind of actually brings this in a little bit more, which is helpful. Although the rest of my stuff is going to be a lighter green than that, just slightly. But the pattern's only in every other block. The other blocks have the same pattern, but it's just done with quilting, not with the design. And I'm pretty sure this is a queen size. I think that's what was done. But yeah, so that's the modern wedding quilt, to be mostly copied by the original one, but the original one's going to be hand done basically entirely. It's going to take forever. So we have 6 months to do these things. That's why we have the long-term project vlogs, is to help me space projects out. So yeah, that's going to be it's going to be a 6-month project. Yeah. But anyway, so I definitely wanted to show that. Glad I got that out. But yeah, all the bedding like right now looks really disjointed with like the black and the brown and the white and the blue and the green. But eventually this is getting replaced with something that's black and white. So it'll look a lot better with this once it's the black and white and not the black and brown. The pillow shams that we're doing, I have some black and white plaid that has brown in it, but the brown, you had to like really look to see the brown. So I was hoping that the brown, black, and white would help bring all of this together. It still looks really off with this in particular, so I think it will look a lot better once I make the new coverlet. Just I don't have the equipment for that yet, so we're making do with this one. It's not going to look as I envisioned until I get that coverlet done, which is fine. So yeah, next month we're going to work on the pillow shams, like the decorative ones. So we'll do the plaid of those, and I have a little decorative pillow we're going to make out of green linen, which eventually will probably be the fabric I use in the bedroom curtains whenever we get to that point. I kind of need a house, so because I kind of need to know how many windows and how big they are and all that fun stuff. But I got my linen from a company that doesn't really change. They add colors in, but they really don't change their colors. So I should still have access to that same linen fabric. So I bought some for the decorative pillow, and then we'll do the curtains when we actually have a house. Although that probably won't be on this channel. I'll probably eventually separate the homesteading life from the historical life and put two separate channels. But that's a down the road thing once we actually get to that point. But yeah, I think that's just about it. So all three of the bedding coverlets. So what I'm envisioning is like, bottom sheet, which it would typically be the fitted sheet, but we're not doing fitted sheets. So, the tucked bottom sheet, the flat sheet over top, and in the winter we'd add this in. In the summer we'd forego that coverlet, and I have this just folded at the very end. I don't want to put it on top of anything because it's mostly white with kids and pets, although we probably won't have indoor only pets at all anymore. It's still like this is special because of people who made this, and I don't want to get this dirty or worn. So I think it's just going to be decorative, the very foot of the bed, like that last couple of inches. Have this folded up, maybe just with one panel length showing, just as pretty, just so it's there. So yeah, I think that's just about it. Anyway, I know this wasn't a very interesting video, although we did get to plan out something fun. Just haven't actually done anything, and I probably will not spin the wool and cotton needed for this. I'll most likely buy it. It'll just be home woven, not home spun. Although the jury's still out on that. I could change my mind. I probably will definitely buy the cotton to warp the loom. Whether or not I try to spin cotton or wool or whatever for the weft is a different story, and that decision will be made later. But yeah, so we didn't really do any sewing this month, but it is nice to have all of this together and kind of show off the plans, even though it looks very disjointed and does not match at all right now. It looks very strange. I do think that having this black and white will help a lot. That's the plan anyway. I hope that was still interesting, even though there wasn't any sewing involved. Next month we will get to pillow shams, so that should be slightly more interesting because I'll actually be doing something. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here on Monday.